I'm going to record this too so that it's available online. And if you haven't done so yet, follow me on Twitter. And I have this, well, you'll be able to get discounts, free access to my courses. I give that out a lot. And then I post a lot of stuff to keep people current on using the Go programming language, and in particular using it for web development. And I'm really into performant websites, so also HTML and CSS, and that kind of stuff gets posted there. And I also have this belief that the more followers I get, the more successful I'll be. Actually, you know, because I'm building something right now which is going to be awesome. And I want to be able to tell the world about it when we launch. And so launch is probably going to be somewhere in November, December. And so tune in and follow me on Twitter. So at Todd McLeod, and just take a moment to go there if you're catching this video online. All right, so we're going to be working off of GitHub. Todd McLeod goes to 11. That's a reference to an old Rob Reiner movie, Spinal Tap. If you haven't checked it out, it's got some good laughs in it. And we're going to be working on the Golang Web Dev repo, which is my most current. It's the most current repo I have for teaching web dev. And so the old code is just stuff I haven't processed from previous repo into the new one, but there's a lot of good stuff in there. Sessions, HTTPS, JSON, creating a photo blog, you know, the cookie for it, using App Engine, Memcache, using data store on Google Cloud, which is a NoSQL database. Creating a guest book, you know, recreating Twitter, interestingly enough. And so a whole lot of really interesting stuff, Ajax. And that's, you'll either find that under old code or I'll finally kind of cleaned it up. And as I clean it up, you could come in here and you could take a look at, you know, different stuff. And I'm putting in the little readmes. So there's how you do a variable with a template inside a template. So that's what we're going to be kind of working through. So make sure you check that out. But the first thing we're going to do is just a little bit of a language review with Go. And so that's what this video is going to be about. And I'll put all these videos into a playlist so that everybody can access them and follow them in a sequential manner. And eventually this will be a course that you'll be able to take on Udemy. If you are just learning the Go programming language, go to Udemy Todd McLeod, and you'll see Learn How to Code. And if I was going there for the first time, then it's not going to recognize that I'm logged in with an incognito window. And I could redeem a coupon. And for everybody online, if you enter SABER, S-A-B-E-R, which is Spanish for to know, I think. I'm not saying that right probably because it's been forever. It gives you 50% off or 46% off. I don't know why I did that. But anyhow. And also Udemy is always offering this for a discount. But that'll teach you the fundamentals of the language if you're wanting to learn that. So now we're just going to do a review of the language. And the first thing, if I can find my, there it is. First thing is a short variable declaration. And so that's just x colon equals 42. And the colon equals is the will initialize a variable. So when we talk about variables, we talk about declare, we talk about assign, and we talk about initialize, just to be, you know, do a little reminder. And to declare, I would say var x int. I'm declaring x is an int. This variable x is an int. That is its type. Go is very much about types. So it's a little bit of a shift in your thinking. If you're coming from OOP, object-oriented programming, this is going to be a little bit different. And you just have to sort of like bring everything you know, but be open to having a new master and letting the new master kind of teach you like new techniques and new ways of thinking about things. Technology is about innovation. And as I mentioned at the beginning, this is off video just to the students in the classroom here. Go was created in 2007 and 2006. Intel released the first dual-core processor. 2007, Google created the first language to really take advantage of multiple cores and easily do concurrency. It's got great credentials. The Go programming language has great credentials. Created by Google and created by Rob Pike, Ken Thompson, Robert Gressmer, luminaries in computer science. Same dudes who helped create the C programming language, Unix, and UTF-8, right? Like, whoa. Those are like big deals in comp sci. I heard those credentials about Go. No more research was needed. No more consideration was needed. I'm learning this language, right? But it's different. So you have to be open to the new masters. Rob Pike, Ken Thompson, Robert Gressimer, Google, they know more than me about computer science, and they always will. I will never be that good, right? And so I'm just like, new master, teach me your ways. They've come up with some new ways of doing stuff, and it's really about type. And by the end of today, or by the end of the next hour, you're going to see, oh, this is trippy. It's about type, right? So it's one of the new things you have to wrap your head around. And you could learn a little bit about why Google created the Golang programming language by going to golang.org, going to Documents, and at Documents, frequently asked questions. That's a really great document. Effective Go, that's a really great document. The language specification, that's a really great document. Those are documents that if you're going to get into this language, you're going to spend time with. When you first come to the language spec, don't expect to understand that for 6 months. I have a friend. He is one of the best Go programmer teachers in the world, one of the leading corporate trainers, hired by corporations every week at thousands of dollars a day to come in and teach their devs how to do the Go programming language. He's written books on the Go programming language, right? And he's programmed in C++ for 20 years. He said, when I got started with Go, it took me 6 months until I understood the language spec. So there's going to be parts in there that are just esoteric and like some cone that you have to reflect upon that the master gave you that after time will only make sense. So if you get in there and you're hit hard by it, you're in good company, right? But Go suffers no fools. It's not like a language where it's all made easy for you and you just type in a few commands and voila, you have like, you know, an entire CRUD application ready to go, right? Because you knew the right commands to type in. It's pure programming. Obviously, you got to make some sort of a distinction between, you know, how low do you go, how abstracted you go, because if you're going to create it all yourself, you got to go get sand and turn it into silicon. And then manufacture a CPU, right? And then give it an instruction set, and then program an operating system for it. So, you know, you choose your level of abstraction, and anyhow, but Go is I think a really nice fit. It's not too abstracted and lets you do things at a real programming systems level language level. So those are the fact for why did Google create. Why are you creating a new language? You could read about that. And giving up your old ways of doing things, you could come and see the difference between is Go an object-oriented language. A lot of the principles of OOP come over to it, but there's things which are different. So if you apply your OOP way of design patterns, your OOP design patterns, sometimes that's not the best way to do Go code. So just be open to, all right, let me approach this, release some of what I know, or be willing to let it go and try to embrace something new. So looking at the language fundamentals. So declare, assign, initialize, short declaration operator allows us to initialize a variable, right? We will sometimes just declare something var x int, and that will declare it to its 0 value, so that x will now be initialized to the value of 0 because the 0 value of an int is 0. You could go to the language spec and you can see what are the 0 values, and it'll tell you int is 0, float 64 is 0, right? String is just an empty string. A lot of the other stuff is nil. And so the other interesting thing to know about the language spec, and just talking about types a little bit, when you look at the numeric types, holy crap, there's a lot of numeric types. There's an int 8, there's a uint 8, there's an int whatever, int 32, int 64, uint 32, uint 64. Geez, Malise, do I have to figure all this out? And oh, in this situation, I'm going to use a uint 32 instead of an int 32. What's uint versus int? Well, uint is unsigned. An int is signed. What's that mean? An unsigned integer is just going to be positive value. So if I have a uint 8, I could go 0 to 255. If I have an int 8, I could go negative 127 to 128 or something like that. So an int 8 is signed. It's got negative and positive. A uint 8 is unsigned. It takes all 256 possible values, makes them positive. It's unsigned. It doesn't have a positive or negative. It's just positive. So 8 meaning 8 bits. With 8 bits, we could do 2 to the power of 8, 256 possible things. So that's what a uint8 does. Did I lose anybody? Check out that Go programming intro course. So usually when you see var, you're setting something to the 0 value. And var is always going to be outside of any declaration block, any block of code. var is going to be outside that. Var will sometimes be inside that. Short declaration operator, always inside. Always. That's the only place you use it. If I move that outside, I've got an error. Right? That's not going to run. Boom. Big red line right there. My editor's noticing it. Bring it back. No red line. Little red line right there because I haven't used it yet. So x is equal to 42. I've declared and assigned it, which is another way of saying I initialized it. And now I could just do format, the funct package. I could call the function printline. And I could printline this, I want to say motherfucking value, but that's just because I'm sleep deprived. And cussing sometimes turns it up a little bit or makes it a little bit interesting. I can printline this motherfucking value. I don't know, just have a good time, right? When have you heard a computer scientist teach a class and say, I can printline this motherfucking value? That is! I grew up with a Southern Pentecostal teacher for a grandpa. So I come by my Southern accent legitimately. My mama used to read to me "Ta Baby" in a Southern voice. Because that was where she was raised. So I slip into that. And in some ways, I've become a Pentecostal preacher. Runs in the blood. But now I'm preaching the language of Go. So that's gonna work. And I could switch to that directory. And nice thing about WebStorm is once I get in there, it tells me where I'm at, right up here. And so there's a repo there in the temp folder where I just keep code samples as I'm showing people stuff. And that will always be there. That's where we're working today. 16 SVCC, Silicon Valley Code Camp. Go run main. And I'm printing that motherfucking value. That motherfucking bot's not part of the Pentecostal preacher background. That's part of me growing up wherever. And so 42. So that's declaring. Watch this. I could do, instead of var x, whoa, that's kind of weird. I have variable shadowing there, so that's not a good deal, right? Variable shadowing. X out here, X in here. If I had another func, create a func. When you create a func, it is going to be your receiver, identifier, params, returns, and this is where you keep your motherfucking code. Right, so that is the whatever layout of function declaration. You'll learn what a receiver is in about 15 minutes if you don't already know. Okay? And everything here, its receiver is just another parameter. But it attaches it to a type. And everything else here is pretty standard, except you could have multiple returns, which you can't do in every language. Right? And that's kind of sweet. But there is, you know, that's the shit right there. So that is to know. So if I had another func here, func something, and I had x equals 17, right? And then this funct printline x. And notice here I didn't do x. I could have done that, but I already got x declared up here, so here I'm just assigning it. And this is just stupid code, right? But here x is 42. We print 42, and then something runs, and x. And this is just bad code. It's just confusing, right? Because we've got variable shadowing going on. X, 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 bad. When you name things in Go, let me just talk about naming identifiers. Camelcase. Okay, so Camelcase is like this. This is Camelcase. I don't want to see underscores. I don't want to see this is a constant with that or dashes. That's not idiomatic. Idiomatic. Every culture has patterns of speech. Patterns of speech are called idioms, right? If I was to say to you, oh my gosh, the waves are big today, I'm going to get my gun, you'd be like, what are you talking about? The waves are big, you're going to get your gun. That is a pattern of speech, an idiom for the subculture of surfing. A gun is a big wave, or a big board, right? So idioms, patterns of speech in every culture. Makes me nervous having a camera on me. I don't know why. I'm like, take the picture. My brain's going to neutral.
You're looking at me. I'm not taking it.
So those are, isn't that weird? Hold on.
The idiom is a pattern.
An idiom's a pattern of speech. Idiom's a pattern of speech. And so idiomatic Go code is code that conforms to the Go programming language style and idioms, patterns of speech. That's idiomatic Go code. When I first read that in the spec, I'm like, what the hell does idiomatic mean? Right? But that's what idiomatic means. So Camelcase, and you just conform to that, and it has a lot of design sort of like formatting decisions already made for you, so you don't have debates with people about how it should be, and that just makes people more productive. So this is not good code. So I'm going to get rid of that. I'm going to get rid of that, and I'm going to get rid of that. And then the next thing, which is interesting, I could have type. Somebody give me a new identifier. Type hot dog is an int. Type hot dog is an int. Oh, that's weird. And I might also do like type hot dog, right? Camelcase. Hot dog or hot dog, I don't know, whatever. Type hot dog is an int. And then I could say var y is a hot dog. What? I just created my own type. In the type system, you've got built-in types, int, string, float 64. By the way, all those types that you see, int, uint, int8, uint8, right? Rune, all those types, just use int. Just use float 64. You will have mechanical sympathy. Bill Kennedy, great Go programming trainer, talks about, you taking this course? Talks about mechanical sympathy, right? And mechanical sympathy means if you use an int, it'll figure out, are you running on 32-bit or 64-bit machine? All right, we're going to make this one int 32 because you're on a 32-bit machine. We're going to make this int 64 because you're on a 64-bit machine. And so you get into subtleties and nuances for optimizing code when you get to that, but until you reach that level, just use int, just use float 64. So var y is a hot dog. The type is hot dog. The type of y is hot dog. I could say y is equal to 17. I could then funct print y. And you know, sometimes as I do this stuff, make me a liar, I get things wrong, but that's how I learn. And that's the risk of live coding. Whoa! Y is the identifier, right? It has the value of 17. The type of that value is hot dog. What? Crazy, interesting. This is where we diverge from OOP design and we start to get into a new way of thinking. Tech is about innovation. You are an innovator by the fact that you came into tech. Fight against the impulse to stay in your rut, your routine, what you know. Get out of your comfort zone. Try something new. Innovate. Be open to that beginner's mind and doing something differently, right? You have great people cutting a new trail for you, great credentials. Open yourself up to like, okay, this is trippy, but there must be some reasoning behind it. So now, can I do this? I cannot. I am trying to assign two different types. I'm saying y, which is a hot dog, I'm now going to assign an int to it. You can't do that. Those are two different types. Go is statically typed. If it's a type hot dog, it's a type hot dog. If it's a type int, it's a type int. You can't take a string and assign it to an int. Those are two different types. You have to be clear with the compiler. This isn't JavaScript, right? This isn't Python. This isn't like loosey-goosey, shoot from the hip. It all kind of just works. It figures it out. And then you have misto errors, which take forever to troubleshoot. This is you figure it out before you run it, before you send it out. You figure it out as the developer. You make sure it's square. And the compiler will tell you, hey, this isn't making sense. Cannot use X type int as type hot dog in assignment. All right, cool. But you know what I could do? What hot dog's underlying type is int. Hot dog's underlying type is an int. So I could do a couple of things here. I could say hot dog. I could use conversion. Conversion is taking a type and converting it to some other type. A lot of programming languages call this casting. I'm going to cast that type, right? In Go, you say conversion. Language is important. There is a language for talking about every language, right? There's a language for talking about every language. Go has its own language for talking about the Go programming language. As an instructor, I try to be as precise as I can in using the correct language for talking about the language. There's a reason the people who created this language chose slightly different terms to talk about things. I speculate that sometimes they use different terms for talking about things because old terms come with a lot of baggage. Casting maybe comes with a lot of baggage. Objects maybe come with a lot of baggage, right? Inheritance, I don't know, comes with a lot of baggage. So they have new ways of talking about things. And one of the words is conversion, not casting. I'm just going to leave it at that. So now I'm assigning a type hot dog to type hot dog. Let's see if this runs. I assigned a value of type hot dog, to be precise with language. I assigned a value of type hot dog to a variable which has been declared to store type hot dog. It works. And I could do that in reverse. Let's see if I've got this right, 'cause I didn't think these examples through before I came in here. I'm just like talking and seeing where this goes. So I might crash because I might need to use something slightly different. Yay! It's always nice when I get it right. So now I converted this hot dog and it allows me to convert it to an int because the underlying type is int. Oh, thanks. But it would never, even though like it's like, I don't care, whatever, you're doing whatever, you figure that out. But I pass with the compiler because that passes. That passed when it was y, so. So the compiler is your friend, making sure that you're doing things right as a developer. So that's kind of fun. So that's just like kind of like, okay, cool. That's like, let's kind of get into the language. Anybody need to take a break from me yammering and like try coding that? Raise your hand. Cool? Anybody else? How many people want to keep rolling? We're going to just do this democratically. I've got 1 and 1, so keep rolling, keep rolling. All right, man, sorry, you got outvoted. You can watch this video later and code it up at home. All right, so I'm just going to stop this example right there. That's 01. And I'm going to come to my directory just so you can see what I'm doing. And I just lost it in multiple screen realities. And I'm going to create, copy that. Well, I'll just start new. And I'm going to create 02. And then bring that back out of screen. And then bring 02 down here. And let me just see what the heck I have open. And what was the command? I thought it was Alt-Tab does that, Alt funny does that. I guess those are the only two I've opened. Do I have this open somewhere? No, I closed that. All right, cool. Just figuring stuff out. And I need to bring up this. Okay. All right. So when we talk about the language fundamentals, prerequisites right here, right? Variable declaration, short declaration operator, scope. You could come in, take a look at this, block and package. And you could also look in our repo. And actually, let me bring that up on the web. That'll make a little bit more sense. So you can look in our repo here in the prereqs. And we have scope, PNG. So there's a nice, that comes from Caleb Doxey, a book he's working on. But those are the different levels of scope. You got function or block level scope. You have file, you have package scope, you have universe scope. Okay? And that's all right if you don't get that. But that's the first part, is declaration and scope. And then we have data structures. So data structures, we have a slice, we have a map, and we have a struct. A slice is for a list of things of a certain type. A slice of int. I'm going to store a whole bunch of ints in there. I've got a bunch of ints I need to store. You know, customer IDs or something, slice of int. I've got a bunch of strings I need to store, like, you know, somebody's favorite food preferences, slice of string, right? I've got a bunch of hot dog I need to store, right? That type I created, slice of hot dog. I could do that. Interesting. A map is a key value pair. So I just want to store, like, you know, the user ID as the key, and then maybe some other data structure as a bunch of stuff for that user, and use a map. I need it to look something up quickly, right? Like, I've got a million user IDs, and I need to find that one quickly, stick it in a map. That's the key, and then go get whatever value you need, key value. And then a struct is a composite data type. You could also say it's an aggregate data type. Allows you to aggregate together a bunch of other data types, right? So it's just kind of like a cat. It's like, I think of it kind of like a bucket. That's my word, not a Golang word. It's just a big container into which I could stick as much data, as many different types as I want, and I could give it field key names. That would be an object-oriented programming. That would be my object. Objects know something, they do something. They know something, they've got fields and data, and, you know, here's like first name, last name, age, right, employee ID, object. It knows those values for an object. And then you create instances of that object. And then it does stuff, it has methods attached to it. This struct is the equivalent in Go of an object. It's an aggregate data type, a composite data type. Allows you to bring a whole bunch of crap together and just hold it in one variable identifier. So we got a slice, which is for what? Somebody tell me. It's a list of stuff. Python, I think it's called a list, right? I haven't done Python in a while. We have a map, which is for what? Key value pairs. Where's your accent from? Sweet. And then we have a struct, which is for what? Holding a bunch of stuff. I want to hold the employee's first name, last name, their social security number, and the date we started, and which data type do I use? Struct. I want to hold inside my struct for the employee the list of their favorite ice creams. So inside my struct, I could put what data type to hold their favorite ice creams, a map or a slice. I'd go with a slice. You could probably do a map, right? But slice is going to make more sense. Just chocolate, which is a string, vanilla, which is a string, strawberry, which is a string. So all their favorite ice creams, I stick them in that slice. I want to hold their badge in and badge out, and I want to know which building they went in and what time they went in, right? And I want to be able to look that up by building which data structure, a map or a slice, am I going to use inside my struct? Map. right? Because the key will be which? The time or the building? So I want to look it up by building, which is the key? Building, right? And so I can say building A, when were they going in and out? And so it will look up all the building, well, and then the value will need to be some sort of probably a slice, because it'll have a list of all the times they went in and out. Okay? So those are the data structures. So do you want to see the data structures, or you want to see them in action? All right, so let's look at the data structures in action. Did I start that? I did. So data structures in action. So when you do data structures, there's different ways you could create them. And I'm going to do data structures in the next video. I'm just going to stop this one.